It's time for more EGC action. Welcome back to the custom map show match presented by EGC, starring LucifroN and Kasva, 1-1 apiece in this best of 5 as we continue our adventure into the unknown world of custom maps, this time taking to the creation of Adney. It is Holy Island.
Adney is one of the most known mappers of the community, has been very, very active, and there is going to be a second Adney map that we're going to show you today. But here in this one, we are moving on to Holy Island. It is probably my favorite custom map that has ever been published on Age of Empires 4. I think this map has insanely good dynamics. We have seen Four Lakes being a map where the water essentially serves an economical role instead of like a map control style role. We could see an even more different type of an approach here with the water on this map, because you have the water as an optional scenario here. Now, you might be thinking, why? If I don't go for water, I will just fall behind an eco. But wait a minute, this map has double bores in the middle, you do have a lot of berries to work with, but what's more important is that the map in the middle is extremely open, which means that you might not be able to afford moving out for fishing because you could get pressured very early on. The civilizations will be French for LucifroN, English for Kasva, and we are getting ready to jump into game number 3 here. What do you think we're going to see on this map?
Well, this could be interesting because we've already seen the Roos can be quite dominant in the right hands, but not for the reasons we've been expecting. When we watched the last Water Hybrid map, like I think we were theory crafting like, oh, they can just like, they can take out your fishing fleet, they don't have to return home. And I think the thing we have to keep in mind looking at this map, same way we did with Four Lakes and learned with Four Lakes that was highlighted as a possibility, is that if you look at the water, you have to balance whether it's militarily advantageous or only economically. And I do feel like this is another example of economical advantage, right? Like, so if you overinvest in water, we might just see a repeat of game 1 where eventually you just get ran through on land. So I think you're going to have to balance it. The cool thing about this matchup specifically, though, is that even though the Roos can be very strong on water, their opponent can not only be strong on water with Hulks early on, but they are dominant on land with the French Knights.
Indeed. Now, one thing that you could easily spot is that the hunts are very exposed on this map. One of them are in each corner, but those are still relatively far away from the starting town center of the players. On the other hand, sheep are relatively easily accessible, so most of the sheep are clumped up together close to your town center, so you're almost guaranteed to find yourself at least like 6, 8 or so. And if you take a look at how the map looks like, vast open area in the middle with quite a lot of berries, some boars as well. The forests spawn in 3 different locations, at the back of each player's base, and in the central area as well. And of course, you do have a large island with 1 sacred site and 2 large gold mines.
Oh, this is interesting, Lidakor. Look where the gold is located for both players. I wonder if this is intentional coding, because if it is, this might be a Boy at Arms rush type map.
Usually the gold mines spawn on the front, and I think this is actually something that adds a good dynamic to the map, because this is the entire story here. Like we talked about, most built-in hybrid maps of the game being revolved around the fact that if you don't go for water, you lose. But one thing that we have to keep in mind is that if you go for water, you delay your feudal age because you have to invest a lot more resources initially, and it takes some time until they pay off in terms of food income.
It's so far away as well. Like, actually going for water is usually a reasonable, like, negotiation. But so a comparative map for like the distance you're covering to get water online would be Nagari. The difference with Nagari, when you go on your back leg at least, is that it's usually safe. This wouldn't be safe, so it might actually devalue the importance of playing onto waterfronts. And you can see right now, Kasva's not even bothering. Like, he hasn't even looked across that way. He hasn't even glanced in that direction. And I'm kind of surprised Kasva also didn't go for the man-at-arms play. I wonder if he just didn't know the layout, because he's actually one of the most frequent wielders of the Vanguard man-at-arms. They're what I call boy-at-arms. And this might be a map that is viable on simply because the gold is exposed at the front. The other map right now that boy-at-arms does work well on is Highview. I think Highview is the best map to do it on because it's hidden. That's where this might be better balanced, because on Highview you have all the stealth forests. So if you pull early Vanguard man-at-arms, your opponent might struggle to see it. But on this map, if you're playing against a high-level player, what they're going to do, Lidakor, they're going to scout you, right? They're going to look in your base. And they will instantly see the racks and have time to get outposts up to defend. And the reason this play is so powerful that I'm talking about, the reason I bring it up, is because it's very oppressive and almost cheesy in the right hands. Because if you do rush a man-at-arms as the English, you can be on your opponent's gold line on this type of map about a minute 30, minute 40, maybe minute 50. But either way, they won't have enough gold to tech up.
And more importantly, if they decide to go for a dog, they probably won't even have the wood to drop a defensive tower.
Exactly.
So, a lot of dynamics over here, and honestly, those golds being on the front make it a massive decision point whether you go for the water or not, because if you go for the water, you will be much more exposed on your gold mine. For the time being, looks like LucifroN is going to be fishing. Kasva decided not to. No surprise in this one, obviously, you don't really want to match up against the Hulks of the French over here, which brings up the question of what exactly Kasva's game plan is over here, because we didn't see him at arms, we didn't even see any farms from him, no water engagements, so what's the plan here?
I think step one is open up your own doner kebab shop, because he's letting all these sheep mature. He actually got over 20. Like, when the description of this map said there's a lot of sheep, it really wasn't kidding, because he had over 20, and I believe LucifroN got at least 10, right? So there's in excess of 30 sheep spawning on this map. That's pretty nuts. But that aside, I think he's just going to go all-out early aggression by the looks of it. Like, I believe he has scouted out. If you look, you can see he's even attacking the dock now, so he knows what LucifroN's done. And it means that LucifroN's going to be weaker on land, which means it offers up an opportunity to just go early longbow spears and block him on gold, which if you do that at this stage, it's similar to the man-at-arms play, because the French, if they want to combat you on land, need gold for the French knights.
And unlike the ruse that we have seen in the Four Lakes game, you need that dock to drop off the fish, which means that if you can torch down the enemy dock, all those fishing ships become idle and completely useless. And that could be one way that Kazu plays this, pulls the first couple of spearmen towards that dock, tries to burn it down, and you see LucifroN is just now aging up here, so he's yet to start queuing up any kind of military, yet to start even adding an archer range as a response to the spearmen.
And I love this actually out of LucifroN. He reacts appropriately. I'm sick and tired, and I think he probably is, of seeing French players lose games because they build reactionary outposts. If you think you might be threatened, it's probably worth safely just guarding that area, getting outposts down ahead of time, especially with this spawn, because there's double gold vein next to that outpost, so it covers a lot of area. And what I love about what Kaz was doing here with the scout pool, it's multifaceted actually. Attacking this dock forces LucifroN to pull villagers out into no man's land where they'll die, or he has to build a Hulk to defend it. Right? Those are his two main options to actually block the attack there. If he built a Hulk in this game, Kasva just wins. Like, he'll get enough troops together. The cost of Hulks is way too high. So he's really forced an uncomfortable state of the game. LucifroN does get into the Knight. He'll send it over now, but it's still heavily damaged. And these scouts will come back to try and torch it. So at some point, you need to find a way to get out here and repair this. And the cool thing that Kasva can do to counter that is if he now wraps west with the outposts, he'll block off any sort of a reinforcement point to your dock line.
And we've been talking about the French being the tempo setter civilization for most of the games they play. And they have to be the tempo setting civilization. They have to be the aggressors with those knights. And right now, what Kasva is doing is that he's forcing the French player to play defensive. And that's not something that the French are very good at, especially when they only have some early knights to work with. And you see that the villagers on the gold mine are getting picked off. LucifroN is forced to react to this one. And now the dock is on fire as well.
Yeah, and now he has an awkward choice to make. Like, do I lose my fishing or do I send villagers out and maybe they get sniped? Looks like he might have enough military to guard, but he's not paying attention to this. The villagers, they're getting picked apart. Archers are moving across now. Spearmen are backing up for the moment, and that's where LucifroN has to back fully away. More villagers die, and he can't pull one to repair this. He's going to try, but he might lose them for it. And the reason that we're seeing him be the aggressor, by the way, the reason why the English fell off as the aggressive civ, why they always were getting just sucked up into the whirlpool of French anarchy on maps like Dry Arabia, think what the difference between this map and Dry Arabia is. Dry Arabia has wood lines. These are natural defense points. The worst thing for the English is when they don't have the freedom of movement. I know, ironic considering Brexit. But seriously, like, it matters a lot because look how slow these troops are. The difference between a French player and an English player is a French player can just dip out of one side of your base and come in the other. No problem. If an English player has to walk around the other side of a wood line, it slows down the assault by so much. And make no mistake, when you go for lombos like this, it's all about timings. You have very thin timings to make this work.
Speaking of thin timings, though, you do have to respect the amount of archers that LucifroN is now popping out, and LucifroN's eco is still being fueled by those fishing ships. Sure enough, the dock was set on fire, but as long as those are working, you do have a respectable eco lead. It's 39 to 28.
What a Chad. Sorry, I can't ignore that. The
Yeah.
guy's like, Viva la front! Nope, not on our island.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Oh,
man.
but that dock isn't going to last forever. Like, unless LucifroN builds a Hulk. But this is the problem. If you build a Hulk, you are losing the game anyway because it's too expensive. Like, if you look at the dock, you'll see what you pay for a Hulk. It's over 500 resources. You could build 3 knights for that, and you need all 3 knights at this point.
Yeah, it looks
No,
like
not
we're not
Galleons. We
gonna...
ain't building Galleons. If he built a Galleons in this game, well, 1, he'd have to be Castle, but 2, he'd have to be Bonkers. That has to
Oh,
be the
man.
single worst ship in the game.
I think I've seen Gallias being used once, and it was like some low elo team games in which I actually played, and the guy used like a Gallias just to destroy my dock, but like we are losing so much that he could afford that. Aside from that,
Dude,
I've
it's
never
just...
seen that being used.
I mean, it's got ass in the name, and it really is appropriate because that's how I describe that ship. It's absolutely terrible. It needs a rework. I mean, in fairness, probably not the highest priority because I think most people agree like naval combat and the whole interaction in general maybe is in need of a complete rework. So it probably isn't high on the agenda. But if we don't fully rework naval at some point, let's at least make Galleus make sense because it's a stupid ship. Nothing.
Yeah, it's like the entire water concept is weird, you know. The French having a Castle Age ship as the only civilization having a Castle Age ship accessible in Feudal Age. But yeah, naval rework could be nice. Looks like Kasva is just unable to put up enough pressure on that dock though. LucifroN's defense here was really good, and behind this, LucifroN was up by 10 eco for the last like 5 or so minutes, and that's getting concerning for Kasva because if you destroy that dock, LucifroN is going to lose all the efficiency that he has gotten from the fishing ships. But as long as that dock is alive, those fishing ships are boosting LucifroN's eco up to the skies. And that's going to cause problems for Kaz because Kaz is falling behind in army numbers because of that. He simply can't afford to match up the numbers with LucifroN.
But I do think Kaz was over hesitant. Like, we can see clearly by the numbers he was like ahead. And he should have just got a glimpse of that. Like, I would love to see another outpost closer to the dock and then target it down. Like,
Yes.
you get rid of that and you can outproduce. Like, you're very dominant if in kind of neck and neck gathering rates with the English because of your farms. And you're definitely going to become dominant if you force LucifroN only to land. Remember, he only got about 10 sheep total. So he's going to have very finite amounts of resources available to him. You've already been blocking out the gold, right? Like, for those wondering why LucifroN's pushing Horsemen, it's not to counter Lombos. It's because he has no choice. He got blocked on the gold. This is as dominant a position as you can ask for the English. And once again, this is the difference between this and Dry Arabia. There's no natural defenses. There's no prolonged wraparound for the English. You move left, you move right, and instantly you're right on top of an important, valuable resource to the French.
And you see that the second gold mine is also on the front, and this is where that dynamic comes into play. You focus on the fishing eco, you delay your feudal age, but it also sets you back army numbers wise, and that's something an opponent that goes for early aggression can exploit by denying the gold. I would actually like to see a couple of men-at-arms here from Kasva, because against the combination of horsemen and archers, a couple of men-at-arms would actually work pretty well.
Spearman, wakey, wakey. Coffee break over, they're going to move in. That'll force the horsemen away. Lombo's better trade out against the archers. Archers just trying to get rid of those spears, and spears are going to bait the fight in. A full commitment coming out. Lombo stand their ground. Spears will pull back once more, trying to trade the numbers down to make sure Spears can actually push out some damage here. Looks like they are starting to get baited into the fight, and at this rate, it looks like LucifroN might get a little bit depleted, but more horsemen are coming through. Most of the archers are dead right now. Lombo count is being shrunk too fast, and Kasva misstepped here. He didn't play around these outposts. He wasn't able to stay tight enough to him or find a way to leverage those spears, and it's going to be his army getting wiped, and LucifroN finally able to break out of this oppressive state.
I love how LucifroN played this one patiently. He waited to the critical mass to grow up. He wanted to make sure that he takes one decisive engagement, and this is what you want to do against the English generally. You want to take that one critical fight in which you wipe out that low mobility army, because Kasva doesn't have the option to run with the longbows or the spearmen. So you can take one decisive engagement, wipe out the army, and suddenly Kasva has no options to retreat. And now we're looking at a scenario where LucifroN does have the army advantage, 29 or 30 to 8. And also, we still have the fishing eco working for him. This is looking pretty grim here for Kasva. And obviously, some people might complain that, hey, this was just because of the fishing eco. There was a lot more to this one. It was partially the fact that, as you said, Kasva felt a little hesitant to push that dock. Maybe he wanted to play this one a little too cautiously. And LucifroN also had a spectacular defense. This is not an easy defense to pull off, especially given how many villagers he lost on that gold mine.
Hesitation in war gets more people killed than bad plans. That's the way to look at this. Kasva was not willing to commit. He didn't have the conviction to follow through. He had a great position, he had great control of this game, but he didn't do anything with it. Like, he started off phenomenally well. The goal was a great part of the tactic. And I say strategies win games more so than tactics. He started off with great tactic elements, but it never had an encroaching plan. There was never a clear goal other than I build more Lombos. Like, he didn't use them, and that's why this is now looking like pretty much GG. I mean, I don't know about you, Lidakor, but I have seen enough astute 10k elo wielders in chat tell me the games are over, call GG. Like, they'd be calling GG right now at this moment, and they'd be right. They'd be proving themselves. They could probably beat Beastie with knowledge like that, because this is just an easy dive for LucifroN. He can throw away this whole army, and at the end, Kasva's going to be eco-drained, and LucifroN will be halfway to castle.
And you can see that Kasva was trying to set up a farming eco over here, which LucifroN disrupted. And right now, Kasva has 8 food in the bank, 300 food per minute. And behind this one, LucifroN has a completely unraidable fishing eco now. That fishing eco is not something that Kasva can push, even if he had some sort of cavalry component to his army, which he doesn't have. Some of the eco here from LucifroN is simply unraidable. The only thing that he needs to fix is he's taking some shorefish with the fishing ships, which is not necessarily perfect. But aside from that, he's looking like he's in a good spot over here. And I think Castle Age could also become a reality for him soon.
So what you're saying is the next Civ added to the game will have horses that can swim.
I didn't say that.
That's what I took away from that.
Wait, just imagine that. I mean, you know, Koreans, turtle ships. Turtles can come out to the shoreline, right?
Dude, you know what? Like, I don't know what Civ it would be, but you just call them the seahorses. Bam. There we go. We've done it. All right. Terrible idea. For
Delphin Rider.
Okay, so I actually had a really great, a great idea for a tournament. And it was like it's appropriate because this is related to Red Bull. It was going to be called the Wololo, what was that? Wololo P. And what it is every time you win a game in the series, you have to chug a Red Bull down, but you're never allowed to go for a bathroom break. And it's
oh my goodness.
Red Bull, feel free to slide into my DMs. We can make this happen. I think it's going to be a really great contest.
I mean, that would make those 5-hour-long Beastie games very interesting from multiple perspectives, for sure.
Oh, dude, there you go. You know, the best part would be like it would be bladder warfare, right? The best part is going to be when a cheating allegation comes out afterwards because someone had a catheter bag.
All right, back to this one. LucifroN is up to Castle Age, and the moment he reaches Castle, Kasva taps out.
Just in time. We got back to the game just in time. Once again, reach out for that tournament idea, but this tournament's been fantastic so far. This little show match, LucifroN now leading 2-1, and what a way to break out. Kasva, really feel like you missed this opportunity. Big credit to LucifroN for holding on, but Kasva, I said it at the time, I don't want to like harp on it too many times, but the conviction, you need to follow through, you need to keep crawling, and I honestly think Kasva began this game by 5 or 6 minutes in, he probably wishes he went man-at-arms, because one design issue I will say, there's a lot of things I like about this game, a lot of things we didn't get to see because it was so quick, but one element I think is going to be a problem is the gold veins, if they always spawn at the front, it becomes too predictable, and that predictability is exploitable by the boy at arms strategy. Had Kasva pushed man-at-arms at the beginning of this game, LucifroN is dead by 10 minutes. He can't actually do anything.
And with that, we conclude game number 3 of our show match over here. Once again, if you have any feedback to the map, if you have any feedback to the game, if you think this was enjoyable, if you think this was boring, make sure to let us know in the comments, because we're trying our best to make sure that we provide the best entertainment for you possible.
And if you guys make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. I want to see plenty of comments, because if we crack past 100 comments, I am going to force Pesty to have a serious discussion about the Wololo Peak competition. But to get there, you need to make sure you're following all the socials, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, so you never skip a beat when the EGC action is going. We'll see you soon.